Welcome to the Sisterhood Collective podcast, where we empower women to break barriers, overcome limiting beliefs, and achieve true success. I'm your host, Laurie Lauren, entrepreneur and founder of 5 successful businesses. Join me as I share proven strategies, interview inspirational leaders, and provide behind-the-scenes insights to help you level up in your business, career, and in life. Because together, we can get further faster. Okay, let's dive in. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that's close to my heart, which is the art of finding yourself when you've lost yourself in this whirlwind of work and relationships. And I feel like we've all been there. I certainly have. But that moment when you realize you've been so caught up in the needs of others that you've forgotten about your own. So today we're going to explore what happens when you hit that point, and more importantly, how do you navigate your way back to your true self? The reason this is the topic I chose today is because I have a friend going through this right now, and ironically, I'm talking to her a lot about this, even today actually, which is what has sparked my interest in talking about it, because I believe a lot of people are in this space right this moment. And the thing that I'm noticing is that she's really struggling to find herself. So even though we talk about all these strategies and things that you can do, I highlighted to her was that you probably don't know what makes you happy anymore. You probably don't even know what your plan A is or what you want to do with your life, because you've been so consumed in someone else's world, fulfilling all their needs, putting everything that you wanted to do on hold. She has a plan. 2 years ago, she had a goal. And when I asked her, where are you at with this? She says, I actually haven't progressed any further in that. And I'm like, why? She goes, because I've been busy helping somebody else out, helping someone else's business out. And now she's got to that point where something has to change. She's realized this. You're going to go through those emotions of resentment and anger and then acceptance, and probably there's a few more steps after that as well. But I think, firstly, how do you even recognize the signs? How do you know when you've lost yourself completely? How do we know when it's time to hit the pause button and reassess even? And this is the hard one, because self-awareness, well, not everybody has it, but your friends do have it. But I tell you what, most of the time when you're in this space, and if I think about some of the, I don't want to say symptoms, but let's go signs. Some of the signs, that you're in this space is depression or feeling sad, or actually not wanting to go out in public anymore. So you're not wanting to make the effort to dress yourself up nicely or go to dinner. You pull yourself away from your friends a little bit too, because you don't really have anything of interest in your mind anyway to talk about. And then when you do catch up, it's not the high vibe, fun kind of conversation that you used to have years ago. It's now a little bit more slower or sad. And I feel like we move into this space where we're telling our stories. It's our woe is me story, and you're wanting something. And I think it's that moment when you're just reaching out, right? You're trying to tell your story so that someone can recognize for you that you need to do something about this. One of the things that has worked for me previously is creating space. And I think this is so important, but how do you create space, from a relationship? How do you create space from the workplace? I mean, you have to look at this in practical terms. And, particularly if you've got children and life is busy and you're juggling or you're traveling and all those things, but you do have to create space. Why? Because you are the priority. You have to want to make a change. You have to want to create space. And why do we want to create space? Well, this is because you need to go and find yourself again. Because generally when we're not happy, or we've given so much of ourselves and we've forgotten who we are or who we were or who we want to be. And we've also forgotten who we are when we were our thriving self and when we were the fun person that we used to be, or the driven person that we used to be, or whatever that is for you. So I think it is really important. And, you need to remove yourself from that situation. And sometimes you could do that for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, a couple of months, or maybe it's just a couple of hours. But either way, you need that time. But then what do you do in that time? And it's funny because with my friend, I've told her she needs to go back to basics, and, you know, she's actually going through our Design Your Life project right now, which is helping her navigate all of this, which obviously excites me in the first place, because the whole point of that project is to help people find their purpose, find themselves first, their authentic self. Who are they? And then, you know, design a life that they want to have. So we need to do reflection, and we need to do some self-assessment. Now, I'll tell you a personal story here, because I remember a relationship I was in where my partner, who is an absolute brilliant human, by the way, but over the years, I started to notice that he was doing his loves and the things that kind of created who he was as a person, he was doing them less and less. And, you know, that's also what I loved about him, was his, you know, parts of himself, which were his identity, things that he did for him that I found sexy, or I found impressive, you know, that he had that independence and did all those things. And so when I asked him at this one point where he wanted to go on our next holiday, for example, he would just choose locations that he thought I wanted to go to. And I remember one day I said, so what movie do you want to see this weekend? Are you keen to go see one? He goes, yeah. I'm like, cool. What do you want to see? And he was saying the movies that I had said previously, like a couple of days prior. And it made me kind of think, are you saying that because they're the movies I want to see and you're trying to make me happy? Or are these the movies that you actually want to see? And then we went through that little, you know, cycle of stop choosing the things that I want to do and tell me what you actually want to do, because, you know, I want to make you happy as well. And it was quite funny because I knew he wasn't happy, because he was beginning to get depressed. He stopped doing the things that he used to do. And it was very clear to me that he had started to lose his identity to be the man that he thought I wanted him to be now. And in doing all of this, it made me unhappy as well. And that's obviously not cool, because I don't want to be unhappy, but more importantly, the person that you love, you don't want them to be unhappy either, because you want them to succeed. You want them to be happy and do all the things that make them happy. But I noticed that he was starting to exist in my world, but he wasn't living in my world. And this is where we parted ways, because he had started to become numb. He was confused as to what he wanted. He was depressed. And although I loved him, I just wanted to bring him back to life. But, you know, he's the only one that could do that. So we decided to have some time apart. And of course, we're still friends. We didn't make it back together. But, you know, in doing that, he had time to, I guess, reflect and start to learn about himself again. You know, that old saying, you know, put your own face mask on before you put, you know, your child's face mask on, or anybody else, because how can you be the best version of yourself if you're not looking after yourself? And I think that's really, really important. The key message I want to get across here is that as we start to lose ourselves, we really need to get back to who we were, but right now. So that's understanding what fills your cup, what lights your fire. So, and I've talked about this before, and I just think it's so important, is understanding, you know, your non-negotiables. And I've told you previously, you know, and as I spoke to my friend today as well, I said, you probably don't even know what makes you happy anymore. I said, and this is what I did. I reached out to a friend overseas, a friend interstate, and my mum. So 3 different people, all from 3 different parts of my world, and asked them individually, when you think of me at my absolute happiest over the last 5, 10, 15 years, what am I doing? Where am I? Blah, blah, blah. And I got them to give me those 3 to 5 things. Ironically, they were all very, very similar, but they had different perspectives and different angles. But when they were telling me these things, it literally made me smile, because I was like, yeah, because I started to recollect, you know, I was starting to reflect on back to those times that made me happy, and instantly it made me smile. So I knew I was on the right track with this. And then, of course, from there, it's like, well, if they're the things that make me happy, I need to get them back into my life. I need to start doing them again. I need to, you know, get them on my calendar, and I need to do it ASAP. But let me take you back to step 1 was recognizing the signs. Step 2 was creating space to get clarity and understand. And step 3 is reflecting and doing your own self-assessment. And like I said, and if you can't do that self-assessment, reach out to those that know you best and know you previously. The question I asked today was, when was the last time you were happy? When was the last time you were laughing? Because I think laughter is so important. And that was the trigger for her to start going, these are the things that make me happy again. We left that there. So reflection and self-assessment. How can you reconnect with your own needs and desires? So we need to go back and ask ourselves those questions, or those friends. From here, really you're wanting to develop your own plan, right? It's like, well, if these are what made me happy, now how do I bring them back into my world? I was asking my friend the other day, what are you up to? And she says to me, well, I'm creating a plan B, because if this doesn't work out, I need a plan B. I said, are you kidding me? You are having to create yourself a plan A. Why on earth are you going to plan B? You need to create plan A, which is the whole point of this. You've lost yourself. You've lost your plan A. Create plan A. And once you've created plan A, then you can see if that weaves into your previous workspace, previous relationships. So what is plan A? And how does this align with your current actions? What are the benefits of doing plan A? Well, in my personal life, there is only plan A. I remember when I wanted to buy my first gym back in 2013, and I had so much drama with council. And so it was really hard to get a lease because of change of use circumstances and things. But when I eventually found the perfect place, I was like, oh my God, this is the building I want to use, rah, rah, rah. It wasn't, I had the council issues again. And the landlord listened to me. She listened to how passionate I was about this business and how I was going to make it happen. I was going to make it work. Well, here's the thing. I ended up fighting council for 9 months, and she was amazing. And I was absolutely terrified that I was going to lose this building. And by the way, I think I ended up spending around $30,000 in fees and in change of use fees to use this particular building. So if I had lost the lease, which hadn't started yet, because it was based on the premise that I got approval through council, but this lady waited 9 months, and I was spending all this money to get this particular building. Anyway, I guess the thing is, I told her, this is my only option. I'm not deviating from this. This is going to happen, and I'm going to make it work. Now, she was impressed that I was just like, plan A, plan A, plan A. But I didn't want plan B, and I didn't give up. And because I didn't give up, I got the dream of opening my gym and then having that for 10 years in that location. So plan A is important. And the fact that I was so passionate and so clear on exactly how it was going to look and that this was going to happen, it drove me to find every solution and approach this problem in so many different ways to make sure that I got what I wanted. But when you've lost yourself and you can't find plan A, how do we revisit plan A? And I think it's taking a step back and reconnecting with your original goals, your values, and your aspirations. So really reflecting on your goals that you had initially set for yourself. And in this particular case, I said to my friend, what were your goals? They were 2 years ago. So she's going back in that space. But you've got to ask yourself, what are you aiming for when you originally started on this journey, before you started this job that's taken up all your time, before you started this relationship, before it took all your time, before you had kids and it's taken up all of this time? But are those goals still relevant and meaningful to you right now? Well, maybe you need to set new goals, and that's also okay. And also, I guess, recognizing how far you've come. So like looking at the progress that you've made from that original goal to now. Because if you've strayed from your original plan, why have you strayed? What are those contributing factors? And can we change those? I think also it's really important to reconnect with your personal values. And if you don't know your core values, please reach out, because I would love to help you with that. It is also a significant part of our Design Your Life project. And you can't work for somebody, and you most certainly can't be in a relationship if you don't share similar values, because these core values that you have, which have been ingrained in your life through all the positive and negative influences and experiences you've had as a child growing up to this point. But they guide your decisions and they guide your actions. And if you don't know your values, then you may not be making the right decisions or making the right actions to support the life that you want. And so if you do know those values, when's the last time you had a look at them? And are you still living in alignment with these values, or have you just compromised everything in pursuit of other priorities? Which leads me to really knowing, what are your priorities? What really matters to you at this point in your life? What are your non-negotiables? I think that's absolutely critical, because I didn't know what my non-negotiables were even just 1 year ago. And it was at that moment when I had my 3 friends. I asked them what made me happy back in my authentic Loza phase. I brought that back into my life, and I truly believe my life has changed because I feel so much happier. I feel clearer, and it helps me prioritize what I want. I'm no longer making decisions based on what society thinks that I should do, what maybe my parents think I should do, or other people. I'm making decisions around what I want to do, where I see myself, where I want to go in life. Oh, and of course, Lulu. So identifying what truly matters to you and your priorities. And what are you willing to let go of to stay true to yourself? I'm going to ask that again. What are you willing to let go of to stay true to yourself? Of course, once we've done this, we create this roadmap, right? Clarifying your goals, your values, your priorities. As you start to work through these, the roadmap starts to become clear. Like clouds start to part because you are creating space and you're getting clarity on who you are. It's going to help guide you where you want to go next. And you don't need to have the biggest plan. You just need to know what the very next step is to get you closer to that, personal goal, or back to happiness, or back to finding yourself. And we have to be flexible as well. Plans change, I get that. And that's okay, 100%. That's why we are constantly revisiting our goals. And even in business, you have to adapt. Like what you did 2 years ago isn't necessarily going to work now because things have changed. And then I think the other thing is, when you're trying to really work out plan A, is, like I said, seek support. Like get your friends involved, ask the questions. Don't be afraid to reach out to your family, friends, mentors, or whatever it is it's in your life that you feel comfortable. Counselors. It's what you feel comfortable reaching out to and working through this, because an outside perspective sometimes can really provide, such valuable insight. And I have my few friends that I go to for support and for different things. It's the same reason I've got mentors in different areas of my life. I just absolutely love bouncing ideas and getting outside perspective to help, me make decisions. So now we've got our plan A. We've worked out what we want to do, and maybe we've worked out what the life is we're meant to be living in line with our personal values and who we are and who we want to be. And then my question to you is, how do you weave that back into the life that you were living or are living? Because does your plan A align with their plan A or your business's plan A? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But there's a balance here that you need to work through. There's strategies that you can use and implement to ensure that you stay to your plan A. Just to make sure, does your plan A weave into others' lives whilst, and this is key, still honoring your own needs? And obviously the very first thing is set boundaries. And we talk about setting boundaries all the time. If you know what your boundaries are, what you're willing to compromise on or not compromise on, I think you need to know what they are, like literally write them down. Of course, if you're working with somebody in this, you need to communicate that with them. And communication, as we know, is one of the most important things, is letting people know what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with, and not being afraid for fear of what they're going to say or the action or the consequence or the outcome. It's just so essential for maintaining your sense of self, I guess, and also preventing your own personal burnout, because you're doing so much for everybody else. also, this is big, and it's something that I really started to implement after Bali last year, which was that self-care, is like creating myself a routine, a daily routine, because I've realized now that I like routine. But if I make self-care a priority and part of my daily routine, and by that I mean things like, exercise, meditation, journaling are like simple examples. It could be out walking the dog, could be reading a book for 10 minutes, but whatever it is that takes care of you both physically, mentally, and emotionally, when you can do that, and of course it should be a priority in your life, well, it'll help you show up as your best self for others. And so that's important for me, which is why I've made that almost my number one priority. In fact, I think it is literally my number one priority, is practicing self-care, because I do want to obviously get on top of my physical, mental, and emotional health, but also I want to show up as my absolute best self for everybody else. I want to be there for my staff. I want to be there for my business partners. I want to be there for my family and friends. All these things that I've been neglecting. And, when you think about it, there's so much that you want to do and you're juggling so many things. When I'm working at my thriving optimum self, I can be that person. Plan A is, when you think about it too, is maybe you've got things going on in your life. And it's funny, I heard something recently, it must have been a podcast, because I've been into the podcasts a lot lately, but there's two aspects here, I think, of honoring your own needs, is delegating, but also collaborating. So offloading some things and then finding how you can collaborate with others to lighten your workload or get further reach. Like even if it's something as simple as school drop-off, is linking up with another mum or dad and, taking it in turns to do the school drop-off, or, the swimming runs or the sporting runs and things like that. So that collaboration kind of there. But it's hard to ask for help. I think most certainly for me, as I'm getting older, I'm finding it a little bit easier. I just think it's so important. It's actually okay to ask for help. And almost every time you ask for help, someone's going to say yes. People love helping people, 100%. We thrive. We love being that support network for other people. And if you feel that, someone else, and most likely someone in your circle, is also going to have the same feelings. So why wouldn't you ask for help? Because they're going to say yes or help you find a solution. I think the last thing here is stay present. Don't get lost. Stay present, intentional, and be mindful with your interaction of others. And what I mean by this is being fully engaged and attentive when you're with them. And this is something I'm most certainly working on. I actually picked up on this last year, that I'm off with the fairies half the time when I'm in conversation, because I'm thinking of the next thing. And it's something that I'm working on right now, is to be present. And then also more being better at active listening. And when you can be present and also you're actively listening, it's going to help you be more aware of your own needs and boundaries, because you're actually listening to them, not trying to find solutions for somebody else. You're listening to their needs, and you're obviously very clear on your needs because you've just done the work. It will help you navigate more tricky or complicated situations with a little bit more compassion, in my opinion. And I think you need to be honest and open so that you can stay true to yourself. And so if you implement these couple of strategies when you're moving back into those relationships, or moving back into that workplace, or allowing all this previous space that has been taken up and taken you away from your plan A, being clear on your plan A and using some of these strategies will help you weave that life back together again, if it's meant to be. But at the end of the day, it's all about finding that balance and staying true to you. And there you have it. Just a quickie today. I really wanted to just explore this journey of really finding yourself when you're lost in work or relationships, or you're starting to really notice that you're no longer living your best life, you're a little bit unhappy. And remember, it's okay to take a step back and reassess your priorities. I think by creating space, reflecting and revisiting your plan A, you can align your actions, your true desires, and your aspirations, and then really ascertain if you can weave your plan A into the lives of others while still honoring your own needs. So find out what those needs are. Find that balance and stay true to you. So if you are liking our episodes here or you have suggestions, please do me a favor by clicking the subscribe button. I would really appreciate that. And I would love to hear from anybody if you have ideas on other topics that you would like me to talk about. Please reach out, or if you just want to have a conversation, because as you know, I'm a chatty Kathy. I look forward to speaking to you next time. Thank you for joining us on the Sisterhood Collective podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes. And if you want to be the first to hear what is new at Sisterhood Collective, you can find out more on our Instagram, or you can sign up to receive our weekly newsletter and let the good times continue to roll. Now it's time to turn your clear vision into bold action. I'm Laurie Drummond, your host, and until next time, keep striving to live that best life. Take care, and we'll see you soon.